Meeting of the Metropolitan Traffic and Parking Commission. If you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. I ask for an approval of today's agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda's been approved. We're going to ask for an approval of the minutes of the July 10th and the August 14th, 2017 meetings. Has everyone had a chance to review those, please? Okay.
I'll do a motion to approve both minutes.
Okay. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes of the past two meetings have been approved. Approval of the consent agenda. Please note that items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. Consent agenda 0917. Item A, authorize all-way stop for Dabbs Avenue at 22nd Street, requested by Councilmember Hager. Item B, mandatory referral 2017M023AB001, request to abandon a portion of Lester Avenue from Factory Street, Woody Crest Avenue to terminus at Trevecca Nazarene University, requested by Trevecca Nazarene University. Item C, mandatory referral 2017M024AB001, request to abandon a portion of 4th Avenue North from Clay Street South to its terminus at Interstate 65, requested by Reagan Smith and Associates. Item D, mandatory referral 2017M025AB001, request to abandon a portion of the original Cane Ridge Road right-of-way that existed prior to the realignment of Cane Ridge Road, requested by Perry Engineering, LLC. Item E, authorize stop on Woodlands Avenue at Boxwood Drive, requested by Metro Public Works. Item F, authorize removal of an all-way stop at North 9th Street and Cleveland Street, creating stop control Cleveland Street at North 9th Street, requested by Metro Public Works. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
There's a first. Is there a second, please?
A second.
We have a second. We have a first and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please vote by raising your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. The consent agenda has been approved. Okay. New business item. Relocate the megabus parking on the east side of 5th Avenue North at Charlotte Avenue for the MTA circulator. I think, Ms. Marshall, this is your item. And
yes,
is there anyone here from Megabus or MTA? Okay.
MTA is present. They kind of want to see how the discussion goes.
Okay.
If you need some information, they're here to speak.
Okay. All right.
We
Ms.
have
Marshall.
been in contact with the Megabus and company, and they're okay with the relocation. Basically, this relocation will still have them on the east side of 5th Avenue North, approximately 60 feet from their current location.
And I assume the MTA is on board with this change?
The
then?
MTA has requested this change.
And staff is recommending approval?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Any?
To approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a first and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This has been approved. Okay. All right. I think the last item on our agenda is traffic engineering review, traffic signal warrants. This is, assume, Chip, an informational session?
Sorry,
So
we
we
were having a
can-
discussion about bus parking.
Oh.
Yeah, Commissioner Woods asked months ago, maybe a year ago, about having some educational sessions as we have an agenda in our favor like we do today, not like last
Yes,
month.
thank you.
So Amy and I got together with some other people from KCI and Collier, and we put together a little presentation about how traffic signals are warranted or what you guys should look at when you're digesting all these numbers that we throw at you.
Thank you, Chip. Please proceed, Ms. Birch.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Let's see. We're just going to give a brief explanation of traffic signals and when they're needed. And so, when our traffic signal's justified, we use the guiding document of the MUTCD, which you've probably heard said many times by me and many people here. But it's the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and it gives us guidance on what type of traffic control to use, the design, how to install it, operation, maintenance, and so forth. So we're going to talk about traffic signals. And this, there are 9 warrants for traffic signals, and they're here, and I'm going to go over each one kind of briefly. So does a satisfaction of one of these warrants actually require the installation of a traffic signal? And the answer is no, it doesn't. That's also part of the engineering judgment process, but in general, we conduct a traffic study, an engineering study, and look at things like vehicular volume, we'll look at pedestrian volumes, bike volumes, you can go on. The context of where the intersection is located, speed limits, physical layout like the geometry of the intersection, and as well as crash experience, what number of crashes, what type of crashes have occurred in the past. So those type of things go into an engineering study. So first we're going to talk about the 8-hour vehicular volume warrant. This is one of 9. So this is typically intended for locations where there's a large volume of intersecting traffic. That's condition A, and which is called the minimum vehicular volume. And then also locations where traffic volume on the major street is really heavy, and so the traffic on the minor street suffers some undue excessive delay. So that's condition B. And then the bottom one down there is kind of if we don't have meet A or B, but can meet the 80% volume for those, then it might meet warrant C. So the next slide shows a table of these volume warrants for 8 hours. And so this is 8 hours of the day. So it has to meet like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., so forth for 8 hours of the day. And so we look at the volume of traffic on the major street and the volume of traffic on the minor street. And depending on how many lanes are on each of those streets is how much traffic needs to be existing on those approaches for the major and the minor. And so so for example, the first line says that there's, for condition A, says there's 1 lane of traffic on the major street, 1 lane of traffic on the minor street. And so if you have more than 500 vehicles for 8 hours of a day on the major street and more than 150 vehicles on the minor street, then it would meet a signal warrant. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of convoluted numbers here, in this grid, but we have to look at each intersection by that table. So the second one is the 4-hour vehicular volume warrant, and this is intended to be applied where the volume of the intersecting traffic is the principal reason to consider traffic signal control. And so we look at this graph, and if the major street volume is on the horizontal and the minor streets on the vertical axis, and if there's 4 hours of the day when it meets above those curves, then it could be warranted, a traffic signal could be warranted. So these are maybe locations where the intersection doesn't meet the 8 hours, but the 4 hour, which the requirements are a little bit higher. So these volumes are a little bit higher than what's shown in those 8 hour ones. So this is one of the warrants that could possibly meet for the need for a signal. The third one is the peak hour warrant. And it's intended to be used at locations where traffic conditions are such that a minimum of 1 hour of the day, the minor street traffic suffers undue delay. So these locations are, maybe if you have like a factory where there's shift change and a lot of traffic all at once during 1 hour. Sometimes these type of signals or intersections that meet this warrant, the signal might be set on flash during other times of the day so that the major street is not interrupted as much. But there's, criteria about how much delay at the intersection occurs for the minor street and how much minor street volume. We look at that, and then how many vehicles are entering the intersection. So that's, and then condition B is similar to that other graph we looked at, but this is for just 1 hour of the day. So the volumes in order to meet a signal are really pretty high for a peak hour warrant. So the major street, for example, 1,500 cars a day, you need over 100 on the major street, sorry. You'd need over 100 vehicles on the minor street. So the fifth one is the school crossing. Wait, sorry, I missed one. The fourth one is the pedestrian volume. And this is an important one, but it's intended to be used where we have traffic volume on a major street and so heavy that pedestrians have to wait a long period of time to cross the street on the major street. And it's based on 4 hours of traffic volume. So we look at that one. You can go to the next slide, I think. And then school crossings. This is one that we look at, and it's intended to be used where we have school children crossing the major street. And we look at how many gaps are available within an hour when school children are crossing the street. And if those aren't more than, say, an hour, then that might meet. There's also a minimum number of school children requirement, which is 20. And for this, school children is elementary through high school. And typically, when you look at this warrant, you want to make sure that we've looked at other type of remedial measures, which might be crossing guards, school zones, flashers, and those sort of things that you usually see around schools. So the sixth one is the coordinated signal system. So sometimes we have intersections or a street that has kind of long links, and they don't have signals, and we can use signals to establish platooning between intersections so that it's not just consistent flow of traffic at random, but can establish gaps through adding a signal. So that's this one. That's usually, you would see it used on arterial streets. The next one is the Warrant 7, the crash experience, and this one is intended for where there's severity of crashes, a frequency of crashes, and that might be a reason to consider a signal. Some of the criteria is how many crashes are reported that might be correctable by a signal. Those type of crashes are like angle crashes, right angle crashes, left turn crashes, those sort of things, potentially pedestrian crashes. So we look at how many crashes over a period of time and see if that's warranted. The next one is the roadway network. So installing a traffic signal might be justified to encourage concentration and organization of traffic flow on a roadway network. So this might be used or applicable where there's new development or a new roadway and we're planning for the future and traffic's expected to increase. And the last one is the intersection is located near a grade crossing. So that might be based on if there's an intersection close to a grade crossing that is closely spaced, so we would need to stop the traffic at the intersection so that it doesn't overflow into the intersection. And those are typically used, well, I think you can go to the next slide. So there's like a spacing requirement based on where the grade crossing is and the intersection, and there's also volume related to that. Yes.
What is a grade crossing?
The railroad grade crossing. Yes. Good question. So when when a intersection meets this warrant, usually the signal design is designed so that it can be preempted. The signal can be preempted when a train is coming to stop the traffic, and it's also actuated typically, which is it's detected on the side street, so that the major street, if it's not necessary, isn't always having to stop. And so we have 9 warrants that we typically look at when there's a request for a traffic signal or a need for a traffic signal. And the MUTCD is pretty clear that traffic signals are not to be used unless one or more of these warrants are met. But as I went through, there's a lot of just different information that goes into the engineering study to look at all 9 of these. And that's about it, if there's any questions.
So you know what you didn't hear in there, for you guys, you didn't hear money. This board is not supposed to consciously think about money when you're making these decisions. We do, I mean, that's our thing, but if you see the warrants and you see the testimony, then you vote accordingly. So I didn't want you to get budget confused with warrants. And what you also didn't hear are bike signals. It's not a warrant at this time, so it's something we're coming up with our own policy of when to install bike signals, most likely at an existing signal. We're probably not going to construct a new signal for a bike system, but you never know. Right now it's not a warrant, but it is something we as a department are aware of, and we're developing a policy on when there's a motorized vehicular signal, it might need, it's already getting pedestrian signals, why not put bike signals? So we're working on that too. So a lot goes into this, more than you guys have to really think about, hopefully, but when we talk about warrants, that's what we're talking about. When we talk about it didn't meet warrant 1 for volume. Now you kind of know what we're talking about. Or it didn't meet warrant 4 for pedestrians. That's kind of what we're doing. We get these books out and we look at the numbers.
Chip, question. So when you're talking about warrant for bike signals,
Does that mean pedestrians, say yes, no, when we should walk, or 10 seconds? Are you doing the same thing in the future with bicyclists?
Right now we count them as pedestrians. When we're looking at these numbers here, it was 100 per hour for 4 hours, I think. We're counting cyclists as pedestrians because they are not rolled into any of their own warrants. They don't have a specific warrant for bike volume that we use, so we count them as pedestrians.
And these warrants don't apply of whether or not to put the walking man signal up. That's just part of the design for it. But if a intersection meets the warrant and should be decided to be installed based on the pedestrian volume warrant, there are requirements that say that it has to obviously have the pedestrian facilities so that pedestrians can benefit from the signal and being able to cross safely at the signal.
like a crosswalk.
Like a crosswalk, like the flashing don't walk, the signal heads and the push buttons and all of that.
And this all goes back to driver expectancy. When you hear us talk about speed limits not justified or signal not justified or an always stop not justified from our world, it's because really in the big picture it's about driver expectancy. Are they expecting a signal to be out there? Are they expecting an always stop? Because if you start putting in unexpected traffic control devices, they get violations, and you know where that leads.
Mm-hmm. And that brings up something I didn't really mention when I was talking, but the warrants also allow for reduced warrants or reduced criteria when most of the time when the speed limit is higher or the speeds are higher than 40 miles per hour. So there's lower criteria for having to meet the warrant then, if the speed is higher than the volume of traffic that you have to meet, those thresholds might be lower.
Is that usually inclusive of 40, or is it like above 40? Because there are a lot of streets
Yeah,
that are like
sure.
right at 40.
Let me make sure,
It's
but I
40.
think it's
X and
greater than
above.
40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you get a break, just like a parking requirement break for if you're in the CBD versus outside. You get different kind of rules. So higher speeds get lower volume thresholds. So you don't have to meet 80%. It doesn't go down a whole lot.
Right.
What are the intersections with the highest volumes? Do you know? I mean,
If we only had somebody here that just looked at that last week. Jeff, you got your list with you?
I don't have that list with me, but we can give you that list. Council has just recently recommended that, or asked that same question, so that's why it's fresh on your minds. We have the top 30. I'd be glad to send it.
I bet you could list them without even, it's the ones you're thinking, but yeah, we'll get you the list.
That would be great to get that list, please, sent to the commission members.
Anything else?
Y'all have anything else? Thank you, Ms. Birch, appreciate it. Yes, thank you. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for the meeting. Officer? We have a first. We have a second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.